Hello and welcome back to Management Snippets. Yet another episode, yet another topic. This time over, we are going to cover two corporate strategies in marketing. One strategy is, as you can see on the screen in a while, uh, yeah, what you are seeing on the screen is the razor and blade business model or razor and blade strategy, which is very popular of late. And then because uh, as you know, the manufacturing sector is reeling under a lot of margin pressures because one reason why there is a big margin pressure is the proliferation of manufacturing capacities across the world, especially in countries like China, which are low-end destinations for manufacturing. So, especially for companies who have bases in developed world like the Europe or the US, if these companies having manufactured bases in developed countries, they go through this margin pressure in much more acute fashion than the ones in the developing countries. So what happens is when there's a lot of production capacity across the world, naturally the cost comes down. We will take up that concept called economies of scale also. That is a strategy which we will be discussing later on. But as of now, let us see what is this razor and blade business model. This is uh, have you ever bought a razor from the market, wherein you get a razor at a very cheap cost? For example, you get so in India, if it is you get a razor for as low cost as 100 rupees or something. Whereas if once you use the razor for some time and when you want to change the blade, then you go again and purchase this blade on a loose basis that is separately a blade. Then this blade cost will be much more than the race what you paid for the razor. For example, if you had paid 100 rupees for the razor, but when you go and purchase a single blade, that blade itself will be costing something like 150, 200 rupees. So this is something called a razor and blade business model, wherein especially this pertains to heavy manufacturing industry, wherein the orders are decided by the customers on a uh, low lowest price basis. That is especially the government tenders and all, they decide on the lowest price basis. So it is needed for companies to gain market or to get orders, they have to necessarily be the lowest bidder. So in their quest to become the lowest bidder, they have to necessarily quote at a very low margin, or even some of them quote at a negative margin. That is, that is called cost undercutting or price undercutting, wherein they quote if your cost of manufacturing is 100 rupees of a product, you quote something like 90 rupees just for the sake of taking that order. But you are, by virtue of taking that order, you already incurred a loss of 10 rupees, right? So where do you make money? So especially in the case of heavy equipment and all, wherein this equipment have a product life cycle of say 30, 35 years, the spares, the services, these and the replacement work, efficiency improvement work, the value added services, all these things come at a very high cost. So as and when customer starts using this product, this equipment, and once they are in need of a service or a spare part, that is where these manufacturers make a lot of money, wherein to purchase the services and spare parts, the customers have to literally pay through their noses. So this is what is called the razor and blade business model, wherein you sell the razor at a very low cost for the sake of taking the order, and then you actually make money by selling blades. So I hope this business model is clear. So we earlier we touched upon the concept of economies of scale, wherein we told about the proliferation of manufacturing capacities the world over. So we'll just touch upon that topic as well. That is also a corporate strategy or a marketing strategy that companies use to scale up the economies of scale. That is the scale of the production, the scaling up of uh, your operations. This is called the economies of scale. For example, if as you see in the screen, Suppose if you're a car manufacturer and you have a fixed cost, whether you manufacture a car or you don't manufacture a car, the fixed costs are already there. If you say the fixed cost, say $1 lakh is the fixed cost, and your output is only five for 5 cars, uh, per car the cost is coming in to be $20,000. Whereas if the same fixed cost, if you had capacities to manufacture 100 cars, and if you manufacture 100 cars instead of 5 cars, then you find a market for 100 cars. So your cost per unit is as low as $1,000. So that is a huge difference. This is what is called the economies of scale. So when you scale up your operation, you are not only reducing the cost, there are other benefits that you get. So that is not purely from the cost point of view, from the efficiency point of view. Also, when you are manufacturing 5 units versus you are manufacturing 100 units, naturally you can find a lot of method around the madness of manufacturing and try to make your processes more efficient. You by by virtue of doing more and more things, repeated things, your people get used to the work so much to it, so that their efficiency increases, their productivity increases. And when you purchase raw material, when you go to the market and try to purchase just 10 apples, the person would charge you, say, 500 rupees for 10 apples, Whereas if you go and purchase, say, 1,000 apples, you get at a much cheaper rate per apple, right? For example, for 500 rupees, when you purchase 10 apples, you get one apple for 50 rupees. Whereas when you go for to the market and purchase 1,000 apples from the same vendor, he would give it at a much lower rate, wherein you will be paying something like 30 rupees per apple. So this is called the economies of scale when you go into the market and buy raw material for your production needs. And your logistics also comes down because anyway you have to use a truck for transporting your, say, 5 cars, or a train has to be rented. So instead of just 5 cars, if you are transporting 100 cars, the per car transportation cost comes down because you are using the same train. Okay, that kind of a thing. And then the cheaper capital, wherein when you go to your financier and then it's asking for a bulk amount of money as a loan or something, then naturally when your quantum of capital is increasing, your borrowing cost also comes down. Another thing is you are spreading for the risk across, because when you're selling just 5 cars, and then suppose if there is some say a legal thing against your car, and then uh, there is some action, government action coming against you, you will be spreading this risk across 1,000 or 100 units if your economies of scale is more. Whereas if you're just 5 cars and then you're just 5 customers, your cost, that you recover, the profits that you come from these customers are very less. So that way, your risk is also getting distributed. So, and the promotion cost, or you advertise for just for 5 cars or for 1,000 cars, the cost to do an advertisement in the television is the same. Or if you're going for a digital marketing campaign, whether you do it for the 1,000 cars or the 5 cars, it is one and the same, right? So when you have this higher denominator, you have that is called the denominator effect, right? This is simply what which is called the denominator effect. So these are some of the advantages that you get when you scale up your operations. And one country which has actually learned this art is China, wherein you get, if you see Chinese production, that they're all bulk production. They don't make anything in little quantities. They make it in very huge bulk quantities where no country in the world can match them. So that way, they are all using these economies of scale to their great advantage, and that is why across the world it is very difficult to match the prices of the Chinese products. Uh, because of one reason, one major reason is this economies of scale that they have obtained over the years. Yeah, that is about this episode wherein we spoke about razor and blade strategy, wherein we sell a razor at a lower cost and sell the blades thereafter at a very high cost, so that you get the customer through that selling the razor at a low cost. But once the customer is gained, you keep on milking the customer like as if it's a cash cow for many years through the blades or the spares and services that you sell for an equipment once you sell the equipment at a very low cost. And we also spoke about economies of scale, which has been used as a strategy by many companies, especially China as a nation. They have used it very effectively. Thank you so much.